Today, we're diving deep into one of history's most dramatic moments. We're talking about the final, desperate hours of a kingdom right on the edge of annihilation. This is the story of a king, his city, and a terrifying prophecy of absolute ruin. A final warning that came when time had all but run out. Just try to picture it. The most powerful army in the ancient world is right at your doorstep, battering the gates. And inside, a king has to face a divine message that will seal not only his own fate, but the fate of his entire people. The stakes just don't get any higher than this. All right, so let's set the stage a bit. We're in the last incredibly tense moments of the kingdom of Judah. Its final king, a man named Zedekiah, is sitting on a throne that is anything but stable. His kingdom is literally crumbling, both from corruption within and this massive threat from the outside.
So how did things get so bad? Well, take a look at this timeline. Back in 597 BC, Zedekiah isn't even really his own man. He's a puppet king installed by Babylon. His entire reign is just marked by chaos and injustice. And that brings us to this moment. Nebuchadnezzar's army has Jerusalem completely surrounded. And it's right then, in the absolute peak of this crisis, that this divine message arrives for the king.
This whole historical drama really boils down to three main characters. First, you've got King Zedekiah, the man who's completely caught in the crossfire of his own bad decisions. Then there's Jeremiah, the prophet who has the terrible job of delivering God's message. And finally, you have Nebuchadnezzar, the powerful king of Babylon, who's described as the actual instrument of God's judgment. And this is where we get to the heart of it all. The prophet Jeremiah shows up, and he isn't bringing a suggestion or some friendly advice. No, he's delivering a direct, non-negotiable warning for the king, a message that absolutely cannot be ignored. The first part of the prophecy is just brutally clear. There's no room for misinterpretation. The message is simple. God is going to hand the entire city over to the king of Babylon. That's it. Jerusalem's fate is completely sealed. And just in case the king thought this would be a simple surrender, the message gets worse. It spells out exactly how the city will fall. This isn't just a conquest, it's an annihilation. The great city of Jerusalem, he says, will be burned with fire. So you have to ask, why? Why such a devastating judgment? Well, the text makes it clear this wasn't random at all. It was the result of years, even generations, of decline. We're talking about persistent idolatry, widespread social injustice, breaking their covenant with God over and over, even failing to do basic things like freeing their slaves as the law required. It was a total refusal to follow God's will. But the prophecy doesn't just stop with the city. Oh no, it gets intensely personal. It zooms right in on the specific and totally inescapable fate of King Zedekiah himself. And this next part just hammers home how hopeless the situation is. The prophet tells the king, straight up, that any kind of resistance is completely pointless. You can fight, you can rally your soldiers, but it's not going to accomplish a single thing. The divine decree is absolute, you will not succeed. And then the prophecy lays out the king's future step by painful step. I mean, it's a sequence of total humiliation. First, you will not escape. Second, you will be captured. Third, you're going to stand face to face with Nebuchadnezzar, your conqueror. And finally, you will be dragged off to Babylon as a prisoner. But believe it or not, there's a terrible twist coming. The prophecy hints at a fate for Zedekiah that is somehow even more complex and maybe even more horrific than just a clean death on the battlefield. So you have to wonder, in this absolute storm of judgment, is there any glimmer of hope? Any tiny little bit of mercy for this doomed king? Well, the prophecy does offer one piece of good news, but it comes at an absolutely unthinkable price. And here it is. This is the prophecy's truly brutal twist. The mercy is the promise that Zedekiah won't die by the sword, which was a pretty common way for a defeated king to go. But the punishment that comes with it is just unimaginable. He will be forced to watch his own sons executed right in front of him, and only then will his own eyes be put out, making the murder of his children the very last thing he will ever see. Yeah, it's just a grim irony. So when the prophecy says he will die in peace, it has nothing to do with comfort. It just means he won't be killed violently. Instead, he gets to die as a blind prisoner in a foreign country, haunted for the rest of his life by the last image ever burned into his mind.
Okay, so that's the prophecy. Now we have to shift from the warning to the cold, hard history, where we see every single one of these words fulfilled with terrifying precision. The year is 586 BC. This is when it all goes down. After a long, brutal siege, the walls of Jerusalem are finally breached. Nebuchadnezzar's army pours into the city, and just like that, the kingdom of Judah is over. And just look at the aftermath. It's like a checklist of everything Jeremiah said would happen. The city and its sacred temple burned to the ground. King Zedekiah, he tried to run, but he was captured. His sons, executed right in front of him. Then he was blinded and exiled. The people, taken away into captivity. It happened exactly as predicted.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, this whole event really stands as this powerful, sobering symbol. It's a story about what happens when you ignore warnings, about the real cost of breaking promises, and about the devastating reality of judgment. And that leaves us with a question that echoes way beyond the ancient walls of Jerusalem. A question for all of us, really. When you're faced with a clear and final warning, what is the true cost of choosing to look the other way?